And our top focus, Canada. Justin Trudeau's government is in trouble. A massive infighting has erupted.
Right, and Canada's Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland has unexpectedly resigned. She also holds the post of the Finance Minister. She says that she's no longer on the same page with the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau about the best path forward for Canada. She made this big announcement just a little while ago, before she was due to present a fall economic update to the Parliament. This document is widely expected to show the Liberal government had run up a much larger 2023-24 budget deficit than planned.
Now, Freeland, seen as one of Trudeau's closest allies in cabinet, reveals that she was offered another post by Trudeau. In her resignation letter, she says that Canada today faces a grave challenge. Freeland's announcement also follows news that Housing Minister Sean Fraser will not seek re-election. Taking another potshot at the Canadian Prime Minister, Freeland said that Donald Trump's administration is pursuing a policy of aggressive economic nationalism, including a threat of 25% tariffs. She urged that the country should take that threat extremely seriously.
Trump's return to power signals a turbulent chapter for North America and beyond. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has threatened to impose a 25% tariff on all Canadian imports on his first day back in the White House, unless his border concerns are addressed.
Trudeau flew to Florida on the 29th of November to have dinner with President-elect Donald Trump at his Mar-a-Lago club after Trump threatened to impose sweeping tariffs on Canadian products. But instead of getting any reprieve, Trump called him Governor Trudeau. And this came just days after Trump had said that Canada should become the 51st state of the U.S., a statement which drew wide criticism in Canada, raising apprehensions over Trump's moves.
About 60% of U.S. crude oil imports are from Canada, 85% of U.S. electricity imports as well. Ontario's premier has threatened to cut off power supply to the United States if Trump imposes the proposed tariffs. Now, to discuss this further, we are being joined by Terry Milewski, live from Ottawa, Canada. He's a journalist and the author of Blood for Blood, 50 Years of Global Khalistan Project. So thank you so much for joining us on World DNA.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Now, let's get right into it. Canadian Deputy Prime Minister has quit the post and also happens to be a former close ally of Trudeau, and has said that, in fact, there have been a lot of disagreements in the past few weeks. How do you assess the reasons for these emerging cracks within the Trudeau government?
Well, there are the reasons that they want us to know about and the reasons that they don't want us to know about. And in the latter category, I think that it's relevant, although you don't see it much mentioned, that because of Mr. Trudeau's decline in the polls, his shaky future, to put it mildly, because of that, the Liberals have been looking around for somebody else to save their jobs after the next election, because the polls say they might lose them if they run with Trudeau. And so Trudeau and the Liberal Party, they've been talking to a gentleman named Mark Carney, who, as you may know, was previously the governor of the Bank of Canada, then the governor of the Bank of England. He's very highly regarded. And so he was talking to Carney about kind of advising and taking over economic policy while cutting the Minister of Finance out of it. So there's that. That's the underground tension between the two. Wait a minute. She got a feeling that he didn't have confidence in her. Then there was the above ground differences over what she is describing in her very cutting resignation letter as Trudeau's tendency for his penchant for costly political gimmicks. He wanted to send, little checks out to taxpayers at Christmas time. Maybe that make him feel better. Most people said, look, I'm not going to get rich on $250 checks. Why don't you just cut my taxes? It didn't work. She didn't like it. And she's trying to sell the idea that Canada, facing the tariffs that Mr. Trump has promised, needs to keep its powder dry and save a little money because things are going to get rough.
Mr. Milewski, I just want to go to a couple of statements from that resignation letter, because it's rarely that you see a letter which is worded in such detail, talking about things that happened behind doors. Quickly, just going over it, she said that they are at great odds with Trudeau over the past weeks, and that she mentioned that the Liberals need to eschew political gimmicks, something that you briefly mentioned as of now in your first response. Canadian people see through it when they spend for the people and when the government spends for themselves. And also mentioned that there is a great danger over the reasons for the differences regarding Trump's, proposed tariffs. Can you give us a little more detail about what really has been going on within the government, the Liberal government?
Well, we do have some experience because the first time that Mr. Trump was in the White House, he tried this tariff routine, threatened big, actually brought in less tariffs than he had promised. There was aluminum, there was steel. After about a year, Canada was able to roll them back. They weren't 25%. So his bark was worse than his bite. And of course, Canadians are hoping that that will hold true again. Secondly, there's a sort of a ransom demand that the tariffs won't be so bad anyway if the Canadians tighten up the border to keep out criminals, to keep out drugs. And Canada has already agreed to do that. They said, okay, they've put out an economic statement today, as you know, and part of the detail is that they're going to spend $1.5 billion to tighten up the border. They'll have helicopters, they'll have dogs. It's going to look great on TV to try to persuade Mr. Trump. You see, we've done just what you wanted. Now, about those tariffs, can we forget those, please? We're not there yet. I'm getting way ahead of, we can't predict what Trump is going to do, but Chrystia Freeland's point in her letter is that we've got to be serious. We've got to be ready in case he means it, in case he does bring in a 25% tariff. We can't be sitting here and then start figuring out what we're going to do. We've got to start now, and you've got to take it seriously.
Right. So also, just to expand on that, report suggests that 60 Liberal MPs will sign a letter asking Trudeau to resign. The revolt is clearly growing. That being said, what are the chances that Trudeau will resign or not?
Well, personally, I think they're quite high. I think that it's very hard to come back from this, that his time is up. Look, in Canadian politics, it's pretty unusual to go a full 10 years. Prime Minister Chrystia didn't, Prime Minister Mulroney didn't, Prime Minister Harper, all the recent prime ministers that have any longevity at all, they just don't seem to be able to make it to 10 years. Canadians get tired of them. It's that simple. There is a tide in politics, and your time is, when you come in and your hair is all fluffy and the girls are chasing you through airports, then Trudeau looked pretty good. But now his time is up. Canadians are just tired of him. I think that they're estimating tonight about our time, about 60 Liberals are going to sign a letter calling on Trudeau to resign. I think that's going to rise. Once they get to 75, 76, pretty soon they'll have a majority. There are only 153 Liberals in the House of Commons. So I think that he's done for. I think the pollsters now will find that he's dropping like a stone. Already last time I checked, he's 20 points, more than that, in some polls, behind the Conservatives. Most of the polls are saying that if there were an election tomorrow, it would be a Conservative landslide and Trudeau will be finished. Well, he's got to have an election sometime in the next year, so he's toast.
Mr. Milewski, never holding back any words. Always a pleasure speaking with you and hearing your insights. Thank you so much for joining in on World DNA. And of course, all those jabs that have come in from the US side, Governor Trudeau from Trump, or Elon Musk tweeting out that Trudeau will be gone soon. Of course, it doesn't seem to be reflecting well on Trudeau at the moment. Thank you so much for joining us, and there'll be lots more to discuss going forward.